Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Electricast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Claudia Monticelli, your host of this podcast, Let's Talk Soul. And usually I have guests from all walks of life, of course, and we talk about their experiences, spiritual awakening, out-of-body experience, paranormal activity, and things like this. And today I have with me Bob LeMent, who's speaking to us from the United States, the Midwest. Say hello to our audience, Bob.
Hi, everybody. How you doing today?
Thanks. Bob is a co-host of staticradio.com, which is the longest-running comedy podcast. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about that, Bob. When did it start?
So we did our first show January 1st, 1999, which, if you can believe it. Now, it actually wasn't called podcasting back then. It was called Internet Radio.
Right.
And podcasting came along in 2004. But we've been producing a weekly show since then. And so we just entered into our 26th year.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Isn't
and it takes a lot of
isn't it?
preparation. Yeah, it is incredible. So it's been a long time. And your other co-host is also from the Midwest?
Yeah, we went, the reason we started doing this show was we went to college together. And essentially we did the show in college on college radio.
Yeah.
And we graduated with our degrees and went about our lives. And we're like, that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
We should just keep doing this. And so at that time, there was limited, but there was technology to produce an online show. And so we started doing that back in 99 and have just been doing it ever since.
I'm an East Coast girl. Half of my life was spent on the East Coast. And I started my career in the United States as a conference interpreter working for the State Department. Now, my job was to accompany foreign guests that the United States invited for any kind of reason, whether they were journalists, politicians, artists, or things like that. So every time I had a guest, they would send me a bio. The guest would come. We would sit in Washington and map out where they wanted to go. So I had no idea where they would or where we would end up. And so when you talk about the Midwest, I have this vague area. It's an area that goes from north to south, east to west. And it's wide, really, really wide ranging, And for us as Easterners, when we get to Texas, we know where we are. Now, the Midwest is, when you say you've lived in the Midwest most of your life or all of your life, where exactly, in what area? Northwest?
So
East?
I've lived in central Illinois, Decatur, Illinois specifically.
Decatur.
And then St. Louis, Missouri. All my life, I went to school in southern Illinois at Carbondale. But, been in the area pretty much, all my life. I've never lived anywhere else. But, the Midwest, the interesting thing about the Midwest is it's hard for people to pin down what is Midwestern.
Right.
Because, some people think, where does it start? I would say it starts in Ohio.
Well, that's what I was
On
just going to
the
say.
side, and then
Ohio
goes
must
all
be
the way
there.
to
Yeah.
Kansas,
Uh-huh.
Nebraska, and then it goes north up to Wisconsin, but south it goes down to like Kentucky.
Kentucky. Okay.
I would say
Tennessee doesn't cut it.
He's really not. Sometimes they consider Kentucky the South.
That's
As
right. I
opposed to the
would too.
Midwest. So, but that's the area. A lot of people call it flyover country.
Yeah.
The biggest city here is Chicago. Everybody knows Chicago.
Of course.
And I spent most of my, younger life, pre-internet days, where if you said where you live at, I would just say Chicago because nobody knew anything else.
I know.
And you just go, I live outside Chicago.
Right.
Now, the reality was I lived like 3 hours outside Chicago.
Yeah.
But that would have been an idea to think about, Nowadays, people know a little bit more because of having, all the wealth of knowledge. You can look things up and Google Maps and Google Earth and everything. And so I think
since
people are
since
knowledgeable.
There has been such a polarized political situation in the United States that we often have this vision of the United States map with green, blue, green, blue, green, blue, green, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. And you start green and never on the map. We're still hoping. Okay, now, so you've been on that radio for quite a long time. What are the main topics you discuss there? Do you have sort of a theme that runs through all your episodes?
I don't know that we have a main theme. I'd say typically the main theme is just to make each other laugh. And so a lot of times we each tell a story each week, and that story is intended to make the other person laugh and hopefully the audience laugh as well, obviously. But that's the big goal, is to get each other, going, as it were. I don't know if that's a word outside of you get, rib people, get people going.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the main focus of everything. And we started, like I said, back in college. And so this is just kind of a formula that we've been doing now for so long. It's just second nature in some ways. So.
Have you ever had a time when people could call in?
Actually, yeah. So since I don't know about necessarily calling in, but since the last, I guess, year and a half or so, we do all our shows live now. So anybody can join in if they want to.
Oh, that's nice. And how would that happen, actually, Bob?
What's that?
How exactly would that happen if somebody wanted to join in live?
Oh, sure. So we record every week at 9:30 p.m. Central.
Yeah.
On a thing called Plausible, which is a comedian's website. And basically you can come sit in the virtual audience and join in the fun. And a lot of times when people go up, we have them, tell us something, try to make us laugh at some point during the show.
Oh, how interesting. Out of curiosity, if you could say, give us let's say a study guide, a short, what do they call those little booklets that college students study
Cliff Notes?
Cliff Notes. Could you give me a short version, the Cliff Notes version of what makes people laugh generally?
I wish I had the Cliff Notes version of that, because it would be valuable.
Yeah.
It would be very valuable. I think it depends. So a lot of times, it kind of depends on your audience, obviously.
Right, of course.
But, everybody can laugh. It seems like the common denominator is generally something that is true, but inflated, right? So you'd say something that was something that's really true, but you kind of inflate the term to make it ridiculous. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's probably the easiest thing. Now, a lot of times we'll do stuff, some people like puns, some people like jokes, some people like this. I would say, and I don't even know this is a real thing. I say I'm a conversational humorist because I try to pull
The
humor
humor
out
out.
of the conversation. So whatever we happen to be talking about, then
Give me
I'll
an
try to find an
example,
angle.
Bob.
Well, the green. So you were saying, oh, everything's blue, green, blue,
Right.
green, blue, green.
Yeah, right.
And so then that lends itself to a joke where I'm like, what is that, the Green Party? Or are we talking about
Right.
Ross Perot again or something?
Yeah.
And so then you pull what's happening, maybe a minor slip. Obviously you meant to say red, blue, but apparently, and I would, on this, I would say you're a blue person because you didn't forget the blue. You forgot the red. So out of that, I would say that you're definitely in the blue party section of things. And you're hoping for a green party to get rid of that red party. Totally. So this is just, kind of just taking what's happening.
Talking about parties and politics. Justin Trudeau has come to an end. Red has come to the stop
there's
sign.
No more Jagger in the Parliament, House of Commons, or whatever they have up there in Canada. Because there's a rumor that he was Mick Jagger's son. So.
Oh Jesus! Yeah. Yeah, right. It must have been a rumor.
Yeah, no, his mother had an affair with Mick Jagger or something.
Yeah.
And he's the result. I don't know, but yeah.
And he's so young still. And I was thinking, he's been in that position for 16 years. I thought to myself, well, what can he do now?
Oh, I'm sure he'll, go on the speech circuit and make $50,000 a pop.
Well, first thing, he's going to contact you and come to staticradio.com and joke about his situation.
Well, the funny thing is, and this is something that I've just noticed over the last maybe 9 months or whatever, podcasting in Canada is an industry, a vast industry. There's so many people in Canada who love to podcast, which I find really interesting.
Yeah.
So you never know.
And they're very good quality podcasts. Yeah. Very high quality. But high in the sense of intellect. Mm-hmm.
And you may not know it, but it's not without precedent, because I talked to a gentleman, James is all I can remember, but I can't remember his last name. But anyway, he did one of the first streaming stations that was out of Canada.
How interesting.
Way back in the 90s. So there you go.
Wow. Who would have thought? Now,
like all that, yeah.
Often when people contact me, they'd like to be on my show. There's some kind of affinity. I have them write to me and list different topics that they would like to talk about. And one of the topics that Bob listed is the paranormal. And I thought to myself, by golly gee, finally somebody writes paranormal. So I'm going to jump on that.
Okay.
Let's see. I'll put a timer on. See how much you could talk about that.
Well, I better watch out.
But you've got stories.
You might need to set 2 timers. I don't know. But no, I do have. I've had what everyone would call a paranormal experience, and it was. What do you want to say? It was. Not only was it interesting, it was incredibly scary.
Was it something called out-of-body experience?
No.
Then what could it be?
No.
Did you move furniture?
No, I saw a shadow person. In my presence, right?
Okay.
And then the reason that I didn't, the only reason I think that it actually happened was because my son, on the same night, saw a shadow person and told me about it.
Oh, nice. And how long ago
around the
was
same
this?
time. So this would have been 2019. So this is where it takes a tragic turn. But my house burnt down in 2019.
Oh, before or after The presents.
Oh, before. So
Oh,
what
okay.
happened was our house burnt down and we had to find temporary living arrangements while
Yeah.
all that was dealt with. And so we moved in. We actually lived in a hotel for a month.
Uh-huh.
But if you've ever had an experience with this, it's not unlimited your insurance funds. And so we moved into a rental house
Yeah.
in order to kind of make the funds last longer because it
Longer.
took about a year for everything
Uh-huh.
to
Good.
get rebuilt and everything. So shortly after we moved to this rental house with nothing. We had
Uh-huh.
absolutely nothing,
Oh dear.
no furniture, no beds or anything because everything was destroyed. So my wife, being the incredibly resourceful person that she is, had Amazon drop off bed frames and mattresses
Oh.
and stuff like that on the day we moved in.
Mm-hmm.
And we put all this together. We weren't in the house. This maybe had been the first week or so we were in the house.
Uh-huh.
So one night, there's essentially no furniture in the house, just the beds.
Uh-huh.
We were starting to accumulate things again, to kind of rebuild our quota of furniture because
Mm-hmm.
we had no place to sit. And but anyway, we were there, and one night, well, I guess I said so. The neighbors knew all about this for whatever
Ah.
reason. We didn't even live in this neighborhood. We just moved into a rental
Mm-hmm.
house that was in a kind of a regular, you know, cul-de-sac style neighborhood
Right.
here in the Midwest, which a lot
Right.
of things are. And they all knew about it. We met the neighbors, and one of the neighbors was like a used car salesman type of guy,
Uh-huh.
and very gregarious and everything. And so we were like, yes, we had our house burnt down. Yes, it's horrible. Yes, we're trying to get through this.
Uh-huh.
And so then during that week, I'm asleep. I wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and I look over at the window, and I see this shadow that seems to be in the window. And in my head, I'm like, "There's that crazy neighbor trying
Uh-huh.
to look in our window."
Yeah.
But I was really tired. We're exhausted. I mean, the unless anybody's ever had like something traumatic happen to them, there's a certain amount of emotional exhaustion that happens to a
Right.
person when you go through all these things. So we're exhausted, and I'm like, I don't care. He can't see. We've
Right.
got blinds. That was the
Right.
only thing that was. There's no curtains, just blinds. And I went back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the morning, my son catches me, and he goes, "Dad." He
I
goes, "Something
gotta
weird
tell you.
happened." I go, "Well, what happened?" And he goes, "Well, we had got him an iPad to keep him busy,
Uh-huh.
and we had gotten him to have something to do because all his
Toys.
possessions
Yeah.
were gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, he was a teenager. He's like, I was up in the night, and this shadow came through my door and tried to grab my leg.
He said this.
He said this to me, and then
Uh,
now
at the
everything has
time, how
happened, right?
old was he?
I think he was like 17, 16.
Oh, a young man.
Yeah, not a little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not he's not prone to exaggeration.
Right.
Uh, and I was like, and so at this point, the father in me kicks in because our lives have been turned upside down a bit,
Right.
and I'm like, I can't tell him that I saw this thing in our room,
Oh,
my wife
why
and I's room,
not?
because he was really freaked out, and it's only going to make it worse. And there's nowhere else for us to go. I
Oh,
mean,
right. Sure. Of course.
we can't go home yet. It's
Yeah.
still a shambles.
Yeah.
And we just moved in here, so they're not going to, we're not going to get more money to pay for another place to
Right.
go. And so I had to keep him, with us
Right.
essentially, and sleeping because he didn't sleep. He's a teenager. He doesn't sleep good anyway. So I
Oh.
don't want to interrupt anything worse.
Oh
Because I mean,
dear.
he's still going to school. We're still trying to have a normal life. This is in May.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, in June. So I
Uh-huh.
guess he's out of school at that point. But anyway, I tell him, I'm like, oh, I'm sure it was nothing. Everybody's tired, no big deal. But in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, this really happened.
Yeah.
So then, as we go along, and this is like a late 90s, early 2000s, 3-bedroom with a dining room kind of knock 'em out cul-de-sac house.
Right.
It's not a spooky house. It's not anything that you would even consider to have any kind of happenings occur in it, right?
Oh,
There
God.
wasn't a mass suicide or any kind of murders happened here. Nothing. It's boring old house.
Uh-huh.
And so then, as time went on, my wife, we would hear like something in the basement, and there's nothing. Literally, the basement was empty, and the only thing down there were boxes that we put down there so that when we moved back home, we'd have stuff to put in.
Yeah.
So we were saving. But literally, the basement was not finished. It was totally an empty concrete brick, block area. Only thing down there was a hot water heater in the furnace.
Oh, dear.
And we would hear noises down there. And of course, I had to be the skeptic the whole time. I'm like, it's who knows, right?
Yeah.
She's like, it sounds like there's a raccoon down there or something. I'm like, no, I'm sure there's nothing. I have to go look to see what it was and so forth. Mm-hmm. Now, the other weird thing about this house, and this is where I started paying attention.
Yeah.
Is the lock on the there's two things about the basement. So when you go down to the basement, there's an inside access to the basement. So you just walk down some stairs. The lock on the door was to lock the basement door so nothing can come upstairs.
Oh, yeah.
So it was reversed what you would normally think of the lock being.
Sure.
And somebody had hung a bell. So anytime you touched that door or opened that door, it rang a bell.
Oh, dear.
Now, this was already in place before when we got there. We just I just happened to start taking note of these things.
Yeah.
And then my son saw it again, the shadow person walking through the living room and the kitchen and out into the garage one night. Oh,
dear.
When he got up to get something to eat, he's like, yeah, I saw it again. It went out to the garage. And I go, again, oh, no. And so I never did see it again. My wife never saw anything. She just heard things. But my son saw it those 2 times, and all within, fairly close, time, like a couple days apart, something like that. And so then I did not talk about it, and I didn't tell my wife, which to this day she's very angry with me because I never mentioned it. And we didn't have this discussion. So I held this in for the year that we were there, almost not quite a year, until we were able to move back home. And then I finally told her, I said, you remember when our son was talking about, I saw this thing too. And she was so angry with me.
Of course.
She still is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then I didn't talk about it openly for, so it was a year. I kept it from everybody till we got out of the house. And then at least another year and a half or 2 years before I even talked about it after that with anybody else other than my wife. And I told my son, and I apologized to him. I said, yeah, you probably did see something, but I couldn't.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing that you only saw one and that you only saw it once or twice or whatever it was. Because what really occurs, I mean, you could try this on your own. When you all go to bed, keep a very sensitive tape recorder, a digital recorder, in a room where you will not pass or go through during the night. You could even close the door and just let it run all night. When you wake up, wind it back, put it to the beginning. And then you can hear whooshing sounds, a lot of different, even chanting. It's amazing what the spiritual world will bring up and how loud it is, And
that's what I was worried about, though.
Yeah,
I was worried because you don't want to. So not that I'm a severe skeptic. I've always been interested in these things, but when it actually happened, I was like scared to death. I was like, this is horrible. I mean, I'm in essence, I'm financially trapped here,
Yeah.
and this is all going on.
Well,
And
I
so,
mean,
yeah, and it really
people
was a
do
scary situation.
pass. They do
Sure.
leave this earth, and so many spirits, more than half, stay, or they want to stay. They are bound to a certain property. Sometimes people spirits are don't pass on, and they don't even know that they have died, and that there's earthbound. So there's so many different situations that cause spirits to get stuck. It could happen because of the extreme trauma of the way they passed, some unfinished business that they had and want to stick around. But and well, the movies are full with stories of this kind. But it's very, very natural. The let's say the veil between the living and the dead. It's a natural thing that exists, and so it's a wonder to me why it's never spoken about, or it's never taught, never I don't know. There are university programs now for that and well, PhD programs that on consciousness, and that is a whole, opens, I don't want to say a can of worms, but that's what we're talking about when we talk about spirituality. And this, the topic could go on and on and on and on. But as I'm talking, I'm thinking of poor Justin Trudeau.
Why are you worried about him? He's probably a millionaire. You don't need to worry about him.
Where will his little soul go? So disoriented,
in
right?
Ottawa, won't it? It'll be
Incredible.
in Ottawa, in Canada.
Yeah, it's incredible that for someone in the prime of your life, I mean, 50, what is he, 50, 52? I don't think he's 55. And with all of that political experience, I'm sure, like you say, he could have guest speaking occasions that are highly paid. And yeah, sure. And ghostwriters that can write for him.
He'll get a job at Rogers in Canada and be some, governmental attaché for Rogers.
What's Rogers?
To make sure that
What's Rogers?
That's the cable company up in Canada.
I thought it was something like
Media.
McDonald chain of stores.
Oh, no.
He's going to get a job at Rogers.
They do a lot of internet and cable TV up in Canada. And so, yeah, he'll be the attaché to the government for Rogers and get paid $1 million, couple $1 million a year to grease the wheels so that they don't, get fined or something.
Well, pretty soon.
Okay. Now, the funny thing, you mentioned that this, so the shadow thing, the shadow person, you talked about being a spirit. I don't know that it was a spirit, to be honest with you, because it seemed to be like an entity that was living there while we were living there. So it wasn't necessarily like, didn't seem to be longing for the day-to-day that we were experiencing. It had its own thing.
Of course, it has kind of a life of its own. Yeah.
After that. Yeah. It was just like, the silent roommate that mostly walked around at night, but did stuff during the day as well.
I mean, we could call them ghosts if you know.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it was something other. I think it was even other than that. I don't think
it was something that had no body. I understood.
Right. It was not fully transparent. It was kind of translucent.
Okay. So
you could see through it, but it wasn't it wasn't opaque. It certainly had, you could see through it, but yeah, it had some, but I didn't touch it or anything, but
looks like a spirit. tastes like a peanut butter.
Well, but it wasn't wispy or anything. It was dark.
Well, it could have been dark. I mean, it depends. But you had to be there, I guess. But when, just as a tip, because every place you go, every office you work in, every supermarket you walk in, there's energy. There's a sort of energy when you walk in, right? But when you're that close and you have this sense of foreboding, all you have to do is cast it out of your own free will. That's the way it works. And fear will always work against you. Fear just doesn't cut it.
We kind of just got along with it because we had to. It was just a situation that was unavoidable, and maybe that worked to our advantage. I don't know.
Well, you didn't have any trouble.
It didn't try to communicate really. So.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is I've done EVP, which is what you're kind of talking about, sessions before
what
all
is
this happened.
EVP?
Just for fun. Electronic voice phenomena. It's like where you talk about leaving the recorder in a room to catch sounds. And so, but I haven't done that since because I think I'm a little concerned of what I would find.
Well, why would you be concerned? Aren't you curious?
I am curious, but it's kind of like movies, right? Everybody wants to watch action movies and everything, but if they were in the situation when it was happening, they'd be totally horrified.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
So you don't want gunfire happening around you or things exploding around you, but you like to watch them. And so kind of being an outsider peeking into the world is all fine and good. Being in the world is not that fun when it's happening sometimes.
Let me go back a second to your internet radio station that you co-host, to the staticradio.com that revolves around comedy. Excuse me, and all forms of comedy. Couldn't you possibly be comedic about the paranormal or the spiritual world?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, certainly. I think again though, you're removed from the situation. Whenever you're in the situation, it's really. I mean, I laugh about our house burning down, but at this point, but when it happened, you're like, no thanks. I don't really want to talk about it.
Sure.
Sure. I joke, basically, the kind of one of the funny stories that came out of that situation was the house burnt down within an hour.
Yeah.
And we basically, we all went to dinner one night. And when we came home, all the fire trucks were here putting the fire out in our house. And they wouldn't let us near it. And I go, that's my house. And so then they finally let us come up, closer. And the first person outside of the person cordoning off the area was the sheriff. And the sheriff walks up to me and he said, "Did you burn down your house?" I'm watching my house burn down. And the first person that walks up to me and makes contact is law enforcement. And the first thing they ask me is, "Did you burn down your house?"
Of course.
And I go, "No, I didn't." I mean, you think you could have slid into that a little more smoothly.
Right.
And I'm like, no. And then he didn't even talk to me. He turned around and left.
Jesus, didn't believe you.
Well, no, he did, because he didn't do anything else. But that's funny to me now. But at the time I was like, what a horrible interaction I just had. But now I'm like, well, why in the world would somebody act like that in this horrible situation? I mean, the firefighters were practically compassionate to me compared to the sheriff's deputy.
Yeah.
It's just funny though.
As I hear you speak, Bob, and listen to a few of your stories and your background, I get the impression, and I hate to say it, this is the impression that an East Coast person usually gets. And I still, I'm so enthralled, I don't think that's the right word, or I am amazed at the different characteristic, the different personality, the different demeanor that a person from that's non-East Coast, okay, has. They're so different from what I was used to. And I'll just give you an example, okay? Sure. Going back to the story of traveling, I traveled all over the United States. And of course, the United States government had contracts and with local people all over so that they could in some way create activities for us to visit or to see, parties to go to. And in those situations, I always was surprised to see the nature of the home or the family life that people in the Midwest, that large area called the Midwest, had. It was so much more, if I could use the word, wholesome or natural or down to earth. I'm not sure. And as you speak and listening to your voice, I do get that impression. I get that I would leave my child with this guy. I'd give this guy the key to my house. I trust the guy, we don't
lock our doors around here,
Oh, what? You're joking.
I am joking. But
okay.
That's what everybody always says. It's like, oh, it's such a nice area that people don't even lock their doors. If I need something, I can always go to the neighbor's house.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it was such a pleasant surprise. It was such a pleasure to talk to you, Bob. And I do hope in future we'll have a chance to have some more of those paranormal stories. Because
I actually got a couple others.
I don't have enough time for another, but we could do this again sometime. Thank you so much for taking the time.
It all started happening after this fire. I swear, goodness gracious.
That should be a symbol. That should say something to you,
Maybe
fire.
Something to that.
And brimstone.
Maybe I died in fire. I don't even know it yet. Oh my gosh, that'd be terrible.
Thank you, Bob, for taking the time to talk
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow Let's Talk Soul Podcast on Instagram. Let's Talk Soul Podcast is a production of Electrocast Media. Our executive producers are Mark Netter and Peter Rafelson. If you like our show and like what you hear, please subscribe and give us a rating wherever you enjoy podcasts. And remember, stay curious, stay inspired, and never stop exploring the depths of your soul.
Why is it that games make us feel so good or completely rage quit? These emotions we feel are mostly not an accident. People like me designed them. I'm Chris Cross, and this is Brain Arcade, a podcast all about the psychology of game design and why games hit us so hard. Each week, I bring on a new guest, designers, psychologists, storytellers, to break it all down with me. If you play, design, or just love games, follow now.
Electrocast.